Okay, all right, looks like we're good. Sticky notes. There's Lynette.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you, Lynette. Hey, how you doing?
Okay, good. I thought I was having technical
No, well, I
difficulties.
was having a little bit of a problem. Hold on here. Ooh, what is that?
It's my phone.
I hear birds in the background.
Yep, you're in the
Okay.
twilight zone.
Oh, okay. All right. So if everybody can hear me, go ahead and write in your chat box there that you can hear me. Yes, I hear you. Just want to make sure that we're all on the same page here with all the attendees that are piling in. So let's go ahead and do that. And let's see. We're going to, let's see what we got here. Okay, yes, I can hear you. Yes, I can hear you. Okay. Here, what we're going to do tonight, guys, too, for all of you that are in here, we're going to start this tonight. I've got a full presentation I'm going to do, but I also, for all of you, I see Robin, Bruce, Alan, Maureen, Ann. Great. I'm glad you guys are all piling in. We got a bunch of people coming in. If you have a particular question or something that you want Lynette and I to address, that that I can answer for you tonight, and with Lynette as moderator, go ahead and write your question in the chat area, and we'll go ahead and address some of those questions before we jump on. I know that we've done 4 or 5 weeks of these, I think, Lynette. Is that about right? It's been
Yeah, I think this is the fourth or fifth one.
4th or 5th week, yeah. So if you guys have a question, if there's something that we've covered that you've tried that's worked really well, or if there's something that you have a question about that you'd like to get answered, go ahead and put that in the chat box. You can type it in and then post it. So just let me know, and we'll go ahead and answer those too. As I'll keep an eye on the chat area as we go forward here in the presentation, and we can also cover those near the end too. So again, if you have any questions, we'll do that. Now what I'm going to do is we'll go over to the screen share here. I just want to make sure that we that you guys can all see this. So if you can see the webinar on your screen, say yes, I see it. Just go ahead and type that in there. Yes, I see it in the chat box. And I just want to make sure everybody can see that. Can you see it okay, Lynette?
I can.
Okay, great. So we'll just wait for, so go ahead, guys. Everybody says yes, I can hear you, but if you can see the screen, the presentation on the screen, go ahead and say, just type in yes, I see it. Okay, so it looks like we have, yes, I see it. Okay, great, great, awesome. Good. So we'll go ahead. We've got a bunch of people pouring in here, which is good. That's always good to see. We're going to start here with this format, as we always do, with some of the announcements, new weekly information, closings, and then offerings. Today we're talking about prospecting tips and questions, and how to get using the Get One program to get more prospects and things like that. So some of you may have heard me on the Difference Makers call. This one is somewhat similar, but there's some added information. And it will, repetition is always really good. There's been a lot of studies about learning and research and things like that related to repetition and learning. So I think it always helps, to go over, the different things that that we have here, so that you really understand them and things like that. And we can, if we have time, we can do a little bit of chat or ask questions. So again, before we get started, if you have a question and you want to ask a question of me, just put it in the chat box there, and I'll kind of scroll down and kind of see what's there, and we can do our best to answer those questions near the end of this. Okay, The other thing I want to say to you guys too is just to continue to build for the people that you know. Whether there's people here from all over, people from Enagic, there's people from other businesses. And one thing I want to do, actually, I think Lynette, this was your idea a long time ago. You guys, if you go ahead, I'll give you credit for this one. Well, actually, it was a good idea, Lynette. You had said something about getting people, to share this and bring more people in. So here's what I'm offering, guys. If you go ahead and get 3 people that you know, let them know about these free webinars, and no matter what you do for a business opportunity, and if you get 3 people that you know to register, and then you just send me, just send me a quick note to crocbrain@gmail.com. I'll check, so I'll just give you that right now. If we just go up here, it would be crocbrain@gmail.com. So if you send the 3 people over at crocbrain.gmail.com, I will send you out. I wrote a book on Facebook prospecting. It's actually up on Amazon. It's being sold up there, but that I did a while back. But it talks all about takes the social media prospecting and Facebook to a whole new level. You learn about what is Facebook's edge rank, how do you get better viral activity, and all that kind of stuff. And I normally sell that book up there, at least the paperback version, for almost $20. And so I'll send that to you in a digital version. So in an ebook version, free of charge, if you get 3 people to add to that. So that was your idea. I remember way back when, Lynette. I don't know if you remember that, but I thought, hey, we should bring that up.
Okay, I thought that's a great idea.
Yeah. So the more people we bring in here, the better. Okay. Now, is there any other announcements you have before we get going, Lynette?
Well, Thursday morning, Don Prosser is going to be on the call.
Okay.
So it might be of interest to folks. Tuesday will be our good leader, Sam, and then you'll be on the following Tuesday. So we've got lots going on.
Awesome. Great. Awesome. So you said Don Prosser is going to be on your Difference Makers call?
Yes, Thursday morning.
Oh, very cool. I'd love to listen in on that. Is he going to talk about some of the training and things?
I think so.
Okay, good. Well, that'd be great.
Yeah.
Very, very good. Okay, good. Yeah, don't now to get to, for all the people that maybe aren't on Difference Makers call, how do they get to that, Lynette?
Okay, good question. If you go to the Waterworks site, the-water-works.com, and scroll down the page till you see a picture of Maxwell Smart. It has all the access information there to get on that call. It's 9 o'clock Eastern every morning, and it's for all Enagic distributors, just to help you build your business.
Okay, and you see it right up here, guys. If you see it, it's the-water-works.com, correct, Lynette?
Correct.
Okay, so that's the one. You go ahead and you want to write that one down, and that's a great one. It's the call. I love them. I get on them. I learn along with the rest. It'll be good to hear Don and all those kinds of things. So today we're going to jump right in here. We're going to get to, and again, the other thing too is if you have a great story to share, some of you guys have been doing that, which is awesome. I've been hearing some really cool things happening out there, with you guys using the CrocBrain selling system and things you're learning here. Go ahead and make sure send it to me at the crocbrain@gmail.com. I always love hearing about those stories and what's going on there. Okay, we're going to now go into prospecting tips to get more sales. Now, for some of you that are in the Enagic program, which there's a good portion of them, one of the things I know from the Build Off Wade Holder was on, I think, a couple weeks ago, and he talked about the Get One program that Mr. Asobi has launched as part of the training for certification, and really it's what could you get one more sale a month? But this applies to basically every business and every person that's on here. I mean, if you think about it, if you got one more sale a month and all of your sales team got one more sale a month, what would that do to your business? And so this applies to everybody. We're going to talk about prospecting tips to get more sales, and really, what do you have to say and do to do that, okay? So just to go forward here, guys, if you think about it, right, we all want to get more prospects and more monthly sales. And this is introducing this concept of get one, okay, or one more sale a month. Now, you guys all know basically if you're in Enagic and you're doing Kangen, what that one sale would mean to you. I mean, obviously, from your compensation plan, if you're 6A, that's 1710. If you're a 4A, that's 1145. But you know, it's a significant amount. And if you could get your team to do that too, and had a way to duplicate that, you know, that could financially change your future. Okay, so the concept is very powerful. It's really, well, how do we do this, right? So what I mean by this is having you and your sales get one more sale a month. And just imagine what that would do to your business, okay? Now, if you look at this on just the math, okay, and this applies across the board, doesn't matter, you know, what you are in for a business, for the people that are on this call, okay? If you go through this over an 8-month period of time, okay, now this is, you know, for people in King, and Mr. Asobi said you can get to 6A in 8 months if you follow this program, okay? So I just did the math here for you so you can kind of see how this works, right? But it applies to any business, okay? So if you go out, you, as the owner of your company, you go out and get one sale in the first month, that's one sale. Then that you and that one member gets one, it goes to 2. Then it goes to 3, then 5, then 9, then 17, 33, 65, and the total is 115 sales over 8 months. Now, you guys know your business. You know what that would mean financially to you, and you can do the math on that. But it can be very, very significant, okay? And any way you look at it, for all of you listening out there, that's a lot of money, okay? The key thing is that we know this is a very powerful concept, but to put it in practice, okay? Now, the thing about it is this is one of those, well, here's what you do, but then you're sitting there going, okay, that is great. I know what to do. I know that get one more sale for me and my sales team is a very powerful concept, and I know that I should be doing that, but the big rub is, well, how do I do it, right? So to put this into practice, you've got to really be able to answer 3 questions. First, where do you find these prospects in order to get one more sale? Number 2, what do you say to strike interest and get commitments along the way? Okay, so that's very, very important, is how do I approach people and strike an interest and get the commitment that they're actually going to sample the product, or they're going to come to a presentation or demonstration, those kinds of things, right? And I know we all struggle with those things, and we've talked about this before, but it's worth talking about again, because this is in the trenches. This is where the rubber hits the road, okay? And then the last thing is, well, what do you do? Remember, I talk about what you say and what you do. What do you do to convert them into a sale? All right? Now, here's the thing. Let's first talk about this first question of, well, where do you find these prospects? Well, the answer is there's several different sources, and I'm going to show you, you know, some of these right now where you can go. Number 1, people you know. You guys all know your warm market list, or people that you know, connections in the industry. You know, and they exist in a lot of places. It could be family and friends, but it also could be people you know on LinkedIn. It could be other business associates. It could be your coworkers, but people you know. Referrals from others, okay? Getting referrals is a very, very powerful way, and I wrote a book on that about how to generate referrals, and you know, we can bring that up at a later time. Expos and fairs. I used to do that in a previous business I had. You know, I basically went to a lot of trade shows and fairs, and I built a huge list. You know, it's a great way to look for prospects. Chamber of Commerce, that's another way. Associations, trade associations are another area. Now, Chamber of Commerce, you guys that are sitting out there and you know doing a Enagic and the King and Water business, I would highly suggest. I mean, if you want to learn more about this, hopefully eventually we'll have Dan on here. But you know, Holistic Chamber of Commerces, I talk about this in our weekly pod. And we've got our pod now. We're all going out looking at them, but these are like-minded people. They're naturopathic. They're people that really understand the health and wellness area like you guys are in. So the Chamber of Commerce and Holistic Chamber of Commerces are very important. And if you Google Holistic Chamber of Commerce, you're probably going to find one in your area, okay? Then there's retail workers. You know, if you're looking for business opportunities, retail workers are great because they're not making a lot of money per hour, and a lot of them are looking, you know, living paycheck to paycheck, and they're not liking that too well. Okay, so it doesn't really matter what age. I don't know if you guys have looked lately, but the retail worker population has gotten a lot older. It's not the high school and college kids it used to be. That's because we have a lot of displaced workers, 40 and above, that are so-called overqualified, that have been replaced by the younger college kids for half the wage, and they're out of luck. Okay, so they're looking for a way to better their life. Facebook, Pinterest, and LinkedIn. Okay, and I talked about that in a previous webinar. Your coworkers, and then the other thing is classic advertising programs. We're gonna cover in the future once I get the case study done using health newspapers and things like that. But that's an advertising program. I used to advertise quite a bit in, you guys, money mailers, coupon mailers, newspapers. A lot of that stuff you may think, well, that's dead, that's old technology, and actually, really, it isn't. You'd be surprised, in fact, because so many people have gone online, doing direct mail actually stands out now because there's not a lot of people doing it. So you can get a better conversion rate, okay? So that really answers the question of where do you go? And we're going to cover, some of these things in the future on these Sunday calls, so you can really, what I think, in the way I look at it, is all of these are distribution channels that pump prospects into your pipeline, okay? And so you can pick one or two or a whole bunch of them. As you build your business out, you can teach your team members to do the same thing, and really that's what's going to more highly ensure that you get that one sale a month, okay? And so do all your team members. All right. Now the key thing to remember, guys, is this. I say this all the time, right? In our business, people are inventory, and people are everywhere if you keep an open mind. I mean, heck, you can stand on the street corner, and if you're comfortable enough, you can basically the thing that you can stand on a street corner and talk to people and pick people up. I mean, I just did that about less than 30 days ago. I picked up a guy, which now he and his wife, we're going into their church, which is like 12,000 members, the Mass Transit Association out of Los Angeles, which has got 5,000 employees. And I met the guy on the street. He was over in a town called Claremont where I live, and we just chatted, struck up a conversation. So, again, they're everywhere, but you got to keep an open mind. You got to say, hey, everybody's a possibility here, and if you're in business, you're probably passionate about whatever you're selling, and if you're passionate about what you're selling, that comes across. I mean, I'll tell you a story this weekend. I was just, going out with my girlfriend, and we were looking at real estate, and I struck up a conversation with a realtor. He's really interested, so I'm going to send him some of the videos and get him to a demo and things like that. So, so I can't stress this enough. Just keep an open mind. Talk to people wherever you go. Okay. Now the thing is, the key thing though, and I always go back to this because as a business person, you got to think like a business person. So in order to get one, in other words, get one sale a month for you, and teach your people how to do this, you got to know what I call prospect math. Okay. So what that means is you have to know how many prospects do you have to find in a month to get one. In other words, how many do I have to have in my pipeline, at the front end of the pipeline, to go through that pipeline to get that one sale a month? And the answer is not one, because unless you're really, really good and you can close 100% of the people, which I think most of you probably can't. So it's okay. What we want to do is we want to look at, well, what do we have to do? And again, just as a reminder, I'm seeing some people that are putting in, different questions and things. That's awesome. If you have a question, type it into the chat box, and I'll cover these at the very end. We'll go through and do that. So, or if something comes up here and you're not quite sure, we'll stay on and we'll go through those. Okay. All right. Let's keep rolling here. So, the thing about it is, the Get One program and the prospect math really depends on how good you are at converting people to possibilities and then the prospects, okay? Now, I just want to review again so you get this down. And again, I think some of you guys by now, the more you're hearing this, the more it's starting to sink in. You're going, oh yeah, I remember Peter talking about that suspect, possibility, and prospect thing. So I'm going to review it again because it's important that you get this ingrained into your brain and in the way you think about things, because the more you know it, the better you can teach it to your people, right? And that's what duplication is all about. So remember, number one, suspects, that's just your contact list. It could be any form. Could be a warm market list, could be whatever. But basically, it's a name, email, phone number, and maybe a mailing address, physical mailing address. That's a suspect. Possibility is someone that you talked to that said, yeah, they expressed interest. Yeah, I'd like to get some information on that, or yeah, I'd like to sample your product or sample your water. That sounds really interesting. They're a possibility. They only become a prospect, though, and I've talked about this a lot, and we're going to talk about it here again, is when they tell you why. Why do they want to sample your product, or why they want to join your sales team, then and only then are they a prospect. Okay, so I hope a lot of you guys have been dealing with, not necessarily suspects, but a lot of you have been dealing with possibilities, thinking they're prospects when in fact they were just possibilities. Okay, and like I said before, you can't sell anything to a possibility or a suspect. You can only sell to a prospect. Okay, because you got to have that connection. We talked about that, a lot. In one of these, we talked about the glutamate and the dopamine and what happens there. Okay, and that happens during a conversation when that person becomes a prospect. Okay, so let's say your selling process looks like this. Okay, it's pretty simple, and you guys at King & Water, this is pretty much what your selling process looks like, but it's true for any business. Okay, number one, you got to strike interest, right? So I don't care, if you're doing a landscaping company. They got a call from whatever your prospecting methods. Maybe it was an advertising thing they saw, or they Google searched you, and then you get on the phone and you talk to them and they say, I'd like to have you come out and do a bid on my, I'm putting a new lawn in. And then you say, okay, well, that's great, and here's some things to know about us, and can you tell me a little bit more about, why you're doing this? But you're striking interest, okay? It's no different than when you talk to people about King & Water. It's the same thing. Then they got to see a demo or presentation, or you got to come out and do a bid, and you got to, do the kinds of things that you would do in your business. Then they have to sample your product, okay? And that may be, it could be, for Kangen, you guys are giving away free water. For another company, sampling the product may be testimonial sheets and Yelp and all these things where people talk about how well your company does its business. They are in their brain, they're through these testimonials and these 5-star ratings. That is a sampling of the product. It's no different, okay? And then they're going to buy, okay? So that's the process, right? Strike interest, see demo, sample product, and then buy. So for the math now, let's say your conversation or your strike interest or your conversation rate is only 33, or conversion rate, I should say. I'm sorry, I misspelled that. Conversion rate is only 33% for each step. In other words, you only get 3 out of 10. Okay. Now, as you learn the Croc-Brain selling system, that's going to go higher and higher. But let's just say it's 3 out of 10 for right now. Okay. So for every 10 people, you only get 3 that you strike interest with. And so on. Okay, so what you got to do is you got to back that out. So to get one to buy a machine, doesn't it make sense? You have to have 3 people sampling the product and seeing the demo, right? So if you have 33%, if you have 3, one of them is going to buy. So you now have 1 to buy. Okay, and if you take that a step back further to get 3 people sampling the water or sampling your product and seeing a demo, you have to have 9 possibilities that you've worked to strike interest with each month, and so do each of your teammates. Okay, do you guys kind of see the math? In order to get 3 people to actually sample the water or sample the product and see a demo, you got to have 9, because that's 33%, right, or 3 out of 10. In order to get 1 to buy, you have to have the 3. Okay, so really what you're looking at is, the recap here is you got to find 9 new possibilities a month, and so do all your teammates, to get 3 sampling the water or the product in a demo, to get 1 to buy a machine with a 33% conversion rate. And so, these are things, guys, it is so important that you track these and know what your conversion rates are at each point in the pipeline. Because remember, going back up here, our pipeline is not that complex. We're not selling an enterprise software situation. We strike interest, see a demo, sample product, and buy. So really, see a demo, sample product is 1. Our pipeline has 3 steps: strike interest, see a demo, sample product, and buy. So we have to know what our conversion rates are on each of those particular areas in the pipeline, right? So I hope that makes sense to you guys, because if you track these things and you know what your conversion rates are, then you know, is 9 enough, or is 9 too much, or maybe I got to go get 14 a month in order to get 1. Okay, but I think now you're seeing the whole idea of do your prospect math, so you know, and you know where you're at in any given situation, as well as you teach this to your team members so they know where they're at too. Because if some of you guys have been in business, or you're the owner of your business, or like in King & Water, you may be a 6A. Well, your conversion rate may be 6 out of 10, but the newbie coming in, it may be 2 out of 10. So you got to know. They're not like you, and they're training and they're learning. Okay, so everyone has to know what their conversion rates are in the prospect math, so that everyone knows, okay, well, I can do this with 6, one of my teammates has to get 9, the other teammate has to get 16, the other one has to get 22 because they're really bad, but they're learning, and that's okay. So, but if you know that, then you know exactly what to do. Okay, this is really powerful stuff. All right, now the thing about this, right? It's simple math, but here's the rub in this system, and it boils down to these 3 questions. What do you say to get 9 new people a month to say yes, I'm interested, or I want to learn more? Right? We all know that's true. That's a biggie, right? Number 2, what do you say to get 3 of the 9 new people to sample the product and get to a demo, right? Remember, we're going 9, 3, and 1 for a 33% conversion. And the third question is, well, what do you say to 3 people sampling the product to convert 1 into a sale, right? Aren't these like the holy grail questions, and really what you got to get better and better at? This is kind of a thing, guys, where you're practicing. You know, I always taught my sons growing up, just because I learned this from baseball, playing baseball through college. I learned this from one of my coaches. It's called the 10,000 hour rule of mastery. And what that is basically, if you want to get really good at anything, you have to typically put in about 10,000 hours. So if it's a full-time job at 40 hours a week, 2,080 hours a year, that's about a 5-year commitment. If you're doing this part-time, then it takes even a little bit longer, okay? But if you really want to get good at something, and I talked about this last week, if you get good at this Croc-Brain selling system and you put in the time towards mastery and get better and better, number 1, it's going to zoom your business and financially reward you magnitudes over. It's going to teach you how to duplicate, but it's also going to give you guys a lifelong skill. So no matter what you do, you're going to be able to take those selling skills to wherever you go and what opportunity that you have, okay? Whether you're pitching an investment, or you're selling King and machines, or you're starting up a franchise business, it's all the same, because you all have to know how to sell and be a master at selling, okay? So now here's the thing. Going forward here, this is also what you need to teach your team members, right? Because and here's the thing. When you bring these people in, remember I talked about the get one. In concept, it's really good, but you guys know as well as I do, not every single person that comes into your business is going to want to have the desire to run their own business, okay? And you got to factor that in a little bit in your prospect map. There is no perfect world where 100% of the people come in and go, yeah, I want to do this as a business too, right? It doesn't work that way. But the ones that do, they have the desire, and they want to do what you do. They just need to learn how. That's why we bring them to these webinars. They need to plug in with a Croc-Brain selling system. They need to really learn and master what to say and what to do, because isn't that what duplication's all about? I mean, yeah, it is. So this is why it's important not only for you guys to get on, the people that are attending here, but I'm sure you have teammates and things. You should encourage them to come on and to be able to participate in these things, because they're going to learn what to say and what to do just like you are, and that's that duplication. Just makes it so much easier. All right, so step one, remember we said we got to know what to say to these people to strike interest. That's the conversation starters, right? So when you're meeting someone for the first time, you're going to strike interest in the process. That's our step one, okay? So when you speak to someone to strike interest, what you say must be, and I talked about this before, but let's go over it again, or if you're on here for the first time, you're hearing it for the first time, number one, what you say has got to be rejection-free. Remember, I've talked about in the Croc-Brain selling system, right? The crocodile brain is a miser, and it's about fight, flight, and reproduction. It's a survival mechanism. Okay, it's our oldest part of our brain. It's the most powerful, because if you don't get past the croc brain, you ain't getting into the brain. Okay, as simple as that. So the thing is, what you say has to be rejection-free, because otherwise the sales filter goes up and the person shuts down. You've seen that time and time again. You've probably caused that yourself. We all have, okay? So we have to say something that does not trigger that sales filter. Secondly, cannot embarrass or pressure. Okay, how many times, you guys, you ever been hounded by a salesperson, or pressured, or had a pressure sales situation? I got stopped just this week. Great story. These guys that I don't even know. I got a little ding in my truck. I've got to go get it fixed because a lady ran into me. And they followed me, and when I pulled off the side of the road, I was with my son, they started a sales pressure tactic thing on me. And it was like the weirdest thing ever, but it was kind of funny. Inside I was kind of cracking up, because I'm going, You know, these guys, they're doing exactly the wrong thing and they don't even know it, okay? But you've been through a pressure sales situation. Or, you know, if you embarrass somebody, they're going to immediately shut down, right? Because then their ego comes into play. And we'll talk about that in the future. Then the other thing is, it must have a high chance to trigger a positive memory. Remember we talked about that last week. You want to get into the reward circuit and trigger the dopamine dump, right? That's very, very powerful. Remember the pain, pleasure. Pain is the glutamate, pleasure is the dopamine. And if you want to go through that, that was last week's webinar. You can, watch the replay again, and a ton of you guys did, because I get the analytics on the back end, which is great. I'm glad you guys are reviewing this stuff. All right. So what you say to start a conversation can be really good or really bad. Okay. And if you aren't getting the results you want, then you're probably saying the wrong things. Okay. It's nothing against you personally. It's just what you're saying is not the right thing to say. And you guys all know it's hard to transition from friendly social talk, like, hey, isn't it a nice day, the weather's good, to introducing your business into the conversation without coming across as that pushy salesperson. It's really, if you think about it, that can be kind of awkward, okay? So the key thing is it produces that fear, right? Because it's like, oh my gosh, how am I going to do this? And then you blow it up, larger than life in your mind. Because of that fear, we often say nothing, okay? And that nothing can actually kill your revenue and kill your business, right? Because you got to say something, right? But here's the cool secret. The only difference between having unlimited prospects and higher conversion rates of sales and not is really what you say and what you do. And you guys have heard me that are on here. I know, there's a lot of familiar names and things like that. A lot of people have talked with me, and they purchase products. You guys have been following along with this. You've heard me say this time and time again. It's what you say and what you do. And you know that, even down to personal relationships, right? If you say the wrong thing to your significant other and that ends up in a fight, it's not a good thing, right? So it's all about what we say and what we do, right? You wouldn't come, here's another thing. If you are married and you have your 25th anniversary and what you do is forget about the anniversary date, and you're the husband, the wife is probably not going to be speaking to you for about a month, okay? So you guys know how important this, what you say and what you do is across the board with everything in your life. So the only thing really that you may not have right now are the skills of exactly what to say and what to do to grow your business, okay? But you're going to do this by striking up a conversation and then asking the right type of questions. So I'm going to give you a couple examples here. And again, there's a whole bunch more. I've got a quick start cheat sheet you'll see at the very end, one of these low-cost ones, but I give you a whole set of questions. It's got everything in there that you'll need. But here's the first one. Can I ask you a question? Okay. I will say, this is what I call brain freezers. The thing about it, guys, is that when you look at someone and try it, you can even try it with your spouse. Look at your spouse and say, can I ask you a question? And then don't say anything and shut up and just stare at them. And what do you think that person is going to do? Go, well, yeah, what's your question? Now you got their attention. You got their focus in their brain, okay? Now, and it works across the board, personal relationships, business, sales relationships, all along. You say, I have a hunch. You probably know or have experienced someone who is, and this was whatever condition. Am I right? It could be, you probably know or have experienced someone who, has high cholesterol, if you're into health and wellness. Or you probably, or have experienced someone who has, a water problem, or their yard is always yellow if they're a landscaper. You probably know or have experienced someone, who wishes they would be able to lose 20 pounds, and they're always going on diets, and they just can't seem to get that weight off, and the diets just don't work. Am I right? And that person's going to go, well, yeah. And that starts the conversation, right? So, again, that can I ask you a question, and I have a hunch. And again, there's all these conversation starters that I have in the Clark Brain Selling System, but they work. And for some of you guys, if you've been using some of those, post a chat here in the chat area. Just say, yeah, I tried this one, Peter, and it worked really good. So, and we'll get to those, as we go along here, and I will answer some of those things at the very end. Okay, but that's one of the first questions. Okay, another example. And I use this one of the difference makers call, but it's a really good one. I use this one a lot when I'm running around talking to people. You can use this in chamber meetings, association meetings. I use this in airports, like if I'm at an airport and I'm talking to somebody and I want to strike up a conversation about Kangen water. I say, man, looks like a lot of people here are tired. I bet you're worn out as well, especially if the person looks pretty haggard. And they're going, yeah, I've had just a rough week. I've been traveling a lot, or it's just been hard not getting a lot of sleep. And I say, hey, ever wished you had energy like you did when you were in your 20s? And I don't care who you're talking to. If they're in their 30s and above, every single person that I ask that question, without fail, unless there's some kind of fitness guru, they go, yeah, I wish I did. And that opens up the conversation. That you can say, hey, I might have something that might be able to help you. Would you be interested in, hearing me out for about 30 seconds? What's the person going to say? You just created curiosity, right? It was rejection-free. It didn't embarrass or pressure. And it may, now you can say something that can induce that positive memory. So, see, again, you've kept that sales filter down. You struck up the curiosity. Go, yeah, tell me a little bit about it. Now you just struck interest, right? Here's another one. I love this one. And this one is a really simple one, but it works. So what do you do for work? Now, if I'm wanting to go out and find business opportunity builders, I say, well, so what do you do for work? And then I strike up a conversation with them about what they do for work, and do they like it? Have they been there a long time? Does it fit with their work life, and their personal life? Do they miss their kids? Are they getting enough time with their spouse? You can get on all this stuff as you strike up the conversation, because people will start telling you stuff. If you ask them questions and be quiet, more often than not, they reveal their whole life to you and their frustrations, and then okay, what are their pains? Remember, and we're going to talk about that a little bit, later on in the presentation here. But you know what it is, okay? Another one is, well, at the end, if you're all done, especially if they express frustration, you say, well, hey, are you married to your job? I mean, you keep your options open, or you're probably financially independent from this job, right? You don't really need to. You just do this for fun. I know you travel all over the country for fun, and be away from your family, just because that's the way you want it, right? Or do you keep your options open? A lot of times people go, are you crazy, man? So the thing about it is this one, again, is very powerful. And again, guys, there's a combination of these questions. I'm talking to you about the piece of the neuroscience and the brain research and how it affects the brain is things that are new. This one here, nobody really invented this. This has been used by a lot of people. I use it. There's a lot of different questions that I use, and again, these questions are going to be in this quick start cheat sheet guide, but they're good questions and they're powerful questions, and it's all about asking those questions and being quiet and letting the person reveal themselves to you. That's the power of it, okay? All right, now, like I said, there's a lot more of these, and we'll cover that later. That's in that quick start type guide. Step 2, you want to get the commitment for a demo, a presentation, or a follow-up call. It doesn't matter what you're in. You got to get those commitments, because if you don't get those, I learned a long time ago when I had a service business, a home service business, and it was a multi-unit franchise, and I'd have times, guys, where I would go to the house and the person wasn't there. And we had set up the time for me to do the estimate for their remodel, and they never showed up. So you're not alone, especially if you're in Kangen Water. People don't show up for your demonstrations. Until I learned, okay, how do I get this commitment so that they're going to be in their home when I show up, and I don't waste all this time and gas money going out to do that estimate, only to find out they're not there. Okay, it happens across the board. It's not unique to what you do in Kangen Water. All right, so we all want to bring what we think are prospects to a demonstration or a presentation. Okay, you invite them. You let them know how credible this is going to be and the whole process you're going to go through, and you give them, stuff that edifies your company and all that kind of stuff, and you hope they show up. And then when they don't, you get kind of down and you wonder why. Almost to the point where you ever had that situation where you invited 3 or 4 people and none of them showed up, and then your person that's on your sales team above you looks at you and goes, what happened? You're kind of embarrassed, right? And you go, you're probably thinking in your head, it's like, how could they not get this? It's like, you probably ask yourself, it's like, hey, when I talked to them, they were so interested. Well, what happened? Well, these are things we call white lies, right? Especially in the United States of America, people are masters at white lies, and they think it's all right. And we actually, in our culture, we're trained from the time we're little to say that white lies are okay. and they're actually not. But the problem is that people don't, for whatever reason, they don't have the courage, or they weren't trained the right way just to say, no, I'm not interested, no thank you, please leave me alone. They'd rather tell that white lie. They don't want to hurt your feelings. All right, so we're going to get to that, right? Well, I'm here to tell you it's not them and it's not you. It's what you didn't say and do that caused that to happen, okay? So remember, I've always talked about what you say and do will make the difference between a few sales and a lot of sales this year for you, and year over year. So let's kind of rewind. First, you want to show them the demo, right? And for you guys that are in the water biz, we're going to talk about that because there's a good majority of you here. I'm a big believer in these demos, and I know you guys are too. You got to get a commitment prior to your sharing that product with them, okay? And again, this doesn't, whatever kind of demo you're doing, a lot of direct salespeople or outside salespeople do demonstrations all across the board for all kinds of different products. I mean, you ever been into an Apple or Verizon store? They do the same dang thing. They're demoing their products, okay? All right, so the thing about it, though, is some people insist on the possibility seeing the demo before they even start sampling the product, okay? Now, I'm a bit more flexible. I agree. You've got to get a commitment for the person to want to show up to that demo. Okay. Now, there's a difference between retail traffic walking into a store and you're demonstrating versus setting a presentation or demonstration time and date. There's a little difference. So this is for that where you've set that time and date. Okay, and you want them to show up, right? Now, what I do is I know people's lives are busy, so I use and recommend what I call the 2-week, 4-week. So within 2 weeks they have to commit to seeing a demo, and 4 weeks they make a commitment to yes or no, I'm going to purchase the product or not. Okay, which is for you guys in Kangen, that's your machine, right? So what I do in the 2 week is I say I'm gonna deliver this water to you, or deliver a product or sample or whatever it is. But in return, I want you to commit to within the first 2 weeks. Let's set up a time so that I can do my demonstration or presentation. Now, for you guys in Kangen Water, you guys all know, right? Water is water is water. If they don't see the demo, they just don't get it, right? I mean, you ever had that happen, Lynette, where it's like, they just don't understand the value of the water?
Oh, absolutely. And they'll keep drinking it till you get them off.
Yeah, exactly, forever. So that's why you got to get into this demo. Now, my personal recommendation, guys, is to do the demos in the home. And again, retail traffic, that's a whole different thing. We'll cover that later on. But for when you're doing outside sales, and especially for you Kangen people, when you're doing the personal demo, a lot of people, they're big believers in these group demos. I'm not saying that's wrong. I'm just saying I prefer to do the personal demos in the home, and here's why. As far as higher conversion rates, okay? Number one, unless they are a family member or friend and they know you and you've built up, trust and rapport and likability, they don't know you very well, and you haven't built up that rapport or trust, okay? Number two, their home is their familiar place. It's their safe haven. It's a place they trust much more than going to a demo location, okay? And number three, in this personal familiar setting, it's much more conducive to having that personal conversation with them I'm going to talk about here in a moment to uncover what they treasure. And this is all done before you pop open the laptop or fire up the projector or whatever you do to do your demonstration. You have to have this. If you want to have higher conversion rates, you got to basically go through this process. All right. So I recommend doing a demonstration couple by couple, family by family in their home. That's their refuge, and I think it increases the conversion rate, and it has for me. Okay. So how do you get a commitment to set that date for an in-home demo? Well, you do it by getting what I call a commitment with integrity. We do this, we call it a limit commitment, but it's got to be emotionally charged, okay? And here's what it looks like again. So let's say, for example, I'm going to be talking to a guy named Gregory, okay, and I struck interest, and I say, Gregory, I have a hunch you're a person of integrity, right? And he's going to say yes, because he's not going to say, no, I have no integrity, okay? Then he asks the question, so Gregory, and again, guys, if you want to really learn this and you're listening to this webinar, do the replay. Write this down on a note card. That's how I learned it years ago. Write it down on a note card and say it to yourself multiple times a day so you put it to memory. that's an easy way to do it. I get blank note cards. They're 3x5s. You get them for a couple bucks a package, and you write these things down on a note card, carry them with you, and read them to yourself multiple times a day. This is how you kind of get this down from being awkward and not remembering it to being it flows fluidly and you'll remember it, right? So you say, hey, Gregory, I have a hunch. You're a person of integrity, right? He goes, yeah. You say, well, so Gregory, have you ever been stood up for a date or a meeting before? And he's going to say, yeah. And I say, well, how'd that make you feel? Now, when he tells us how that makes us, how it made him feel, what is he doing? He is giving us, he's pulling up those associative memories. Remember, I talked about that with the hippocampus, and charging it with probably a negative feeling, which is going to dump that glutamate. You know, we talked about glutamate last week into the brain. They don't, and he doesn't like that. Okay, so what you do is you say, you know, Gregory, since you told me you're a person of integrity and you don't like being stood up any more than I do, you're going to make sure you're here when I arrive, whatever, Thursday at 10 a.m. to your home, right? He's going to say, yep, I'll be here. Okay, so you can do that with these in-home demos, and that's kind of how to say that. And again, just put this on a note card, practice it till you get to that point where you're ready to go. Okay, all right. That's really how you get a commitment with integrity that is emotionally charged, right? Because you've called up a particular emotional memory. Okay. Okay. Just one more time. Again, if you have any questions, we're going to keep moving here. But any questions, just write them in the chat box for all you guys that are out there that are listening in, or any positive story you want to share, or any conversation starter you used, or anything related to this presentation you weren't quite sure about that you want me to answer, and we can do that at the very end of the webinar. Okay. Now, step 3, how do you speak to the buying brain to get these conversions? Okay. Remember we talked about first you got to strike interest, right? That's step 1. Step 2, you got to get them to your demo or presentation or follow-up call. Now, step 3. You got to take and get to that buying brain to get the conversions to sales, okay? And remember, we talked about the example of the prospect math, the 33%. So if you only get 3 out of 10 that convert, you got to start with 9 people to get down to 3 that are actually going to sample your product and see the demonstration to get to 1 on the get 1 sale per month, okay? Lynette, does that, since you and I are talking, I know people are listening, does that make sense to you, what I talked about with prospect math?
Oh yeah, and you have to understand that so you know where you're going. It's kind of like your recipe.
Yeah, it is. It's exactly, that's a great way to put it, Lynette. It is your recipe. It's like you wouldn't bake a cake or make a roast or whatever without a recipe unless you've done it a million times before. If you're doing something new for the first time, you're going to follow that recipe, right? So this, I'm just giving you that recipe, like Lynette says, to help you in getting that one. Okay, so here's what I said before, and I'm going to say it again because this is really important. Before you pop open your computer screen, pull out the presentation book, or fire up that projector, you've got one important step to do. And if you miss this step, if you get so enamored with doing your demo and spewing out all the stuff that you know and the facts that you have and all that kind of stuff, you are really, really putting a heavy burden on that possibility, because they're not a prospect yet, to connect the dots to turn them into a prospect, to move them along the pipeline to get the sale. Okay, I hope you guys are understanding about how important this is. And this is why I like the in-homes couple by couple, because I can have this conversation with them that I can't have in a group. And even if I do have in a group, the people may not be totally open with me because there's other people sitting around listening. Do you guys see what I'm saying? So again, for the conversion rates, if you want the conversion rates to be higher, it's something to try. And again, if you're not sure, test. In marketing, we always do tests. They call them A/B split tests. So your A would be bring people to a group demonstration. See what happens. What kind of conversion do you do there? And then the B, on the B split, do a few in-home demos and see how many people convert there, and prove it to yourself. You'll know what your numbers are. This is, we do A/B split tests in advertising and marketing all the time in the past businesses I've had. So that's your A/B split test. Is just test group, test personal, see what works best for you. I mean, if you're getting you're getting a whole bunch of people in the group one that are converting, then don't go away from that. I mean, you don't need to reinvent the wheel. But if you're not happy and you're not getting what you want, or you're not getting that get one a month with you and all your people, then you got to kind of think about, well, what else could I do differently that's going to increase my success and more money in my bank account. All right. So really, guys, this important step is what separates the amateurs from the sales pros. And I don't care what business you are in. If you read up, I don't care whether it's Zig Ziglar or all these guys, Ogilvy, all of these guys, they will tell you the same thing that I'm telling you here, is that really doing this step first and doing the discovery process first is really what turns you into a pro in your business, okay? Because the big mistake is you really haven't helped that possibility to become a prospect, like I said, and literally bridge the gap between their pain and pleasure and what your product can do for them. Now, you're learning about what's happening in the brain as you're doing this, and that's good. It's very powerful to know that, because you know how to steer the conversation. And in essence, and I don't mean this in a bad, manipulative way, but you're almost like the puppet master. But you've got to know how to steer that to take them from possibility to prospect prior to then showing them the demonstration, okay? So the reason why is, if you don't do that, you haven't developed any sincere or emotional need for your product or business opportunity, okay? And again, I've talked about this before. Remember, if you go through the Brain Science 101 and the 3 parts of the the brain videos and the Correct Break Selling System, you will see I talk about it in depth there. People buy with their crocodile brain and their limbic system and rationalize later with their cortex. That's all the benefits, features. It was on sale, I got a great deal. That's all cortex thinking, and that's done after the brain actually makes the purchase decision, okay? So it's good to know those things, and if you guys invested in that, this is a complementary tool. You guys can go into all the depth and know exactly what's going on and how to steer that brain while you're doing these kinds of things, okay? But sales professionals, even before neuroscience was around a decade or so ago, they knew innately that it's useless to provide a solution where the prospect doesn't perceive their own problem or challenges. I mean, it's a waste of time. And a lot of guys that are rookie salespeople will go out and do presentation after presentation and not get conversion rates and wonder what's going on. Well, this product must not be any good. Nobody wants it. No, that wasn't the case at all. They were doing the things backwards. Okay. So, and good salespeople will tell you that. So, in other words, before you begin your presentation, you must convert the possibility to a prospect so that he or she connects their personal situation, their pain, their health problem or disease, or their lack of time, or their not being a good father, or their whatever it is. It's their personal situation. If you connect that with your product or business opportunity, and they see that connection, and they can get an emotional connection to that, you have got them, okay? And going back to last week, just one thing to point out: if you boil all this stuff down in sales, people, the big, huge drivers, really fall into 2 buckets: either status, either gaining or losing status. In other words, some people will not join your opportunity because they're afraid, what if it doesn't work and they fail? Now they're going to be humiliated in front of their family and friends. That's status, okay? Or opportunity. So it's either status or opportunity. The opportunity gain of doing something. It could be the opportunity gain if they say, and I've said this in past conversations, I've had this happen to me. When I ask and they say, well, I got high cholesterol, and I say, okay, great, so you're going to try this water for X many days. I want you to go get your blood test. Will you be willing to do that for me? And they say yes, and I say, now, if your blood cholesterol goes back to normal, what are you going to do? And they'll say, well, if I do this, sample the water, my blood cholesterol goes back to normal, and I can see it on my blood workup and it proves it to me, I'm buying that machine. Now, the thing is, I just made them a prospect. I made the personal situation and connection with the product that is very, very powerful, because they have already told me what they're going to do if this works. Okay, and you see, then it becomes just an easy matter of now you're the delivery mechanism to the solution. You see what I'm saying? And that's so powerful. All right, so that's really called digging deeper for more pain and moving it to what they treasure. Okay, and the deeper you dig before you begin your presentation, the easier the presentation becomes. Offering to solve the prospect's problems too soon will work against you because you never move the possibility to the prospect. Okay, now the thing is, you got to remember too, is you can't, like I said, you can't sell anything to a suspect or possibility, only a prospect. Why? Because the prospect has told you their personal connection to your solution. So an easy way to dig for problems is this. 1, ask questions to identify a problem or lack in the prospect's life. And that can be around time, health, or money. These are the 3 biggies, and I cover these in full detail in the Quick Start Guide, okay? We're going to give you an example of one here tonight. Number 2, you're going to go deeper into the problem to find out what the connection is that they treasure. That goes to the reward circuit. Remember, we talked about that in the dopamine dump. And number 3, ask them how it would feel if they got what they treasured. That's that limbic system memory. So you're reinforcing that in the limbic system with the associative memory tied to an emotional charge, either good or bad. All right? So I'm going to give you an example here now. Let's say your prospect is Dan, and he has a problem with not enough time. Okay? So in this example, we use this in the Difference Makers call, but it's worth repeating, because now you can watch this replay again. Because the Difference Makers call, it's only on the phone. It's hard to take fast notes. Okay, but he commutes to and from work. He has to work most Saturdays and keep up with the increasing workload. And the prospect really is poor in time. And again, in this Quick Start Guide, I've got all 3. I've got time, health, and money, and I give examples for each and questions for each, so you get the full-blown. Here's how to cover all 3, because those are typically the 3 biggies. They're either poor in time, poor in health, or poor in money. One of the 3. All right. Now, Dan's pain is this. Number 1, he feels trapped. Right? He's overworked in his job. He feels trapped. He's just, he just feels like there's no way out. The other thing is, he told me about, in kind of the conversation, he told me about missing some baseball games with his son, and it makes him feel really bad. And that's really his pain, is not being a good dad. And actually, I had that pain when I was in the corporate world, because I was always traveling, and I missed being with my kids, my boys and things, because I was gone all the time. And I said, man, I'm not being a good father, and it really bugged me. Okay. The third one is he's missing memories. He's not getting to see these games. I don't know about you guys, if you had kids, but you can watch all this stuff on technology. You can watch it on a video camera, but does not replace being there in person. I don't care how good technology is. Being there for your children, being there for moments in your life with your family. You've got to be there physically, right? So these are things that are Dan's pains, okay? Now, number 1, you want to ask questions to identify a problem or lack in the prospect's life. So you ask him a question like, well, Dan, if you had Saturdays off, well, what would you do? Now, he's going to tell me about some of the things he loved. I mean, one of the things Dan, told me was he used to love to fish all the time, and he loved getting out there at a favorite fishing spot. He just can't go do that anymore, and he just doesn't get to relax. You can also say, he talked about the baseball game. I said, well, Dan, how long has it been since you attended one of your son's baseball games? And then he tells me, he goes, well, it's been a long time, and I feel really bad about that. I keep having to tell my son no, and the look on his face and all that kind of stuff is, it's just crazy, okay? Number 2, go deeper into the problem to find out what the connection is, okay? How do you feel when you tell your son you can't go to his baseball game? Do you feel stressed because you have no time for yourself or no time to go fishing like you used to do? Okay, so that's you're really kind of digging deeper. And then number 3, ask them how it would feel if they got what they treasured. In other words, how would it feel for you to see the look on your son's face when you let him know you're going to the baseball game? I mean, just think about that in your mind. Picture that about the son running up, giving him a hug. It's like, Dad, that's great. I'm so excited. That kind of thing. Or how would it feel to be able to go fishing every Saturday like you told me you love to do? Okay. Then you use picturing. Okay, this is that limbic implant. This is something that we mentioned a little bit last week. Again, I want to cover this again. It's very, very important to say. You say, hey Dan, when you jump into your car right before you pull out of the garage, picture in your mind what you shared with me about going to your son's baseball game, and going fishing in your favorite old spot, or having that romantic dinner with your wife and how that makes you feel. Then think about what we talked about and how Kangen water might be your solution and your way out. So in other words, you're doing that implant. Lynette talked last week about the keys. Okay. Now, then and only then is it time to start the demonstration, because now you've got him thinking about all these things and got him focused on maybe there's a way out with what you have to offer. Okay. Now remember to get 1 sale a month and teach your teammates how to get 1 sale a month. It's very critical that you know what to say and what to do to teach it to your people. Okay. So here's the thing. There's a quick start guide if you want this. It's prospecting tips to get 1 more sale a month, and I wrote this thing up. It's got quite a few. I think it's 14 pages or whatever, but it's got key conversation starters, how to get demo commitments, learn their greatest treasures, how to stimulate the buying brain, learn what to say and what to do. I've got all the questions in there basically for $7 that you and all the scenarios related to time, health, and money. So you can use it, and you can teach your teammates to use this to get a much better opportunity for you to get one and for your teammates to get one. Okay, so I mean, if you think about it, guys, imagine where your business could be if you and your teammates were to follow this thing Mr. Asobi had, or whatever company you're in. I mean, what would that mean to you financially? If you looked and did the 115 sales, depending on where you're at and where they're at, I mean, that's $35,000 to $190,000. I mean, if you think about that, that's pretty crazy what could happen here if you start using these things that I'm showing you in the Quick Start Guide and start mastering them, okay? So here's what you do. If you want this report, it's a Quick Start Cheat Sheet Guide. It's crocbrain.com. You see it on the screen there, /get1, and it's $7. So you can go ahead and do that. So Lynette, I know you wrote me a little message here. We started about 6:05. It's 6:04. So I know we're a little over on the, I guess it's 9. What is it? We're getting near 10 p.m. right on the East Coast.
It's a little after 9.
Okay, 10 after 9. Okay. So what we'll do is we'll go ahead. I'll leave that up there, and I'm going to go over to some of the chat areas just to make sure we've got if there's any questions. Okay. So one of the people, I won't say because it's a private message, but somebody said, well, isn't that too personal to say? How do you feel when you tell your son you can't go to a game? The answer is no, because here's the thing. Really, when you ask that question, you're going to ask it and let the person tell you. So you're really, all you're doing is letting that person talk. I don't know. I've met total strangers that have poured their whole life out to me, and it happens more often than not. So just by asking the question and letting them speak, they'll tell you, it really bugs me, and I wish it wasn't that way, and I really would like to, figure out a different way. So I don't feel it's too personal. If it's getting personal, you're going to see body language signs where the person is going to push away and things like that. But that, I'm telling you, more often than not, and when I say more often, a majority of the cases, people, if they're bugged by something, they want to talk about it because it bothers them. Okay. Another private message. Is there any way to listen to this later? Yes, there is. The replay will be coming. All you guys that registered, and it will. You get the replay so you can listen to that like all these. You have to register each week, but then you get the automatic replay. Somebody asked, what do you say when someone tells you that they want to buy your product but they are not ready yet? That's a really good question. Well, what you do is like what Lynette talked about last week, or what I just talked about, is you do what's called that limbic implant. So you say, because this is for, well, I have to think about it, or I'm not ready to buy. Then you say, well, here's what I want you to think about. When you get in your car, get in the shower, get in bed, or, Lynette, you did the keychain thing, right?
Key, yep. House key.
And so basically that, that in that, the lady's mind, she saw that, and every time she saw that keychain, she remembered what Lynette had said. So, go ahead, rewatch the replay, and that's very, very powerful. Another one here is, what are the videos you send people to when they are a possibility? Well, I'll answer that, and Lynette, you can. And again, guys, for you guys, you can hang on here for a few minutes longer. I know we're over time, but I'll answer some of these questions. What I like to send people the Dr. Donaldson videos. There's 4 of them that get into not just how the water works cellularly in the body, but it also has one in there about why our product is superior to the competition for Kangen water. I'm assuming, Alan, you're from, you're doing Enagic and things like that. So I send that. Lynette, do you have a particular video set you send?
Yeah, we send them to the HSC water videos because it keeps them from going online and going public onto the internet where they're going to find out, be bombarded with all this competitive stuff. And it walks them through like 8 or 9 different videos covering blood work and the demo and a variety of things. Tapped water or bottled water covers all that.
So now Alan's asking a question. Where do you get those HSC videos? How do they get access?
It's a $10 a month subscriber service to get the landing page, and you would go to hscwater.com to get the landing page.
So HSC is Harry Sam
Health Success Center.
Health Success Center. Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
.com, and then they will give you a landing page that's yours. And when they go through this, all these steps, the last one is what do we do now, and they will send you an email letting you know that they've completed the videos.
Okay, good. So they go to healthsuccesscenter.com. Is that where?
Correct.
Okay, got it. Okay, good. So Alan, I hope that answered your question. There's two different ways. Alan, if you want, either way you go, it's your call, not my call, but it sounds like that's good. If you want to see the videos I send, just send me an email to crocbrain@gmail.com, and I'll send you over the ones that I use. It's up to you. Sounds like they're both good solutions there.
Yeah,
okay.
Dr. Michael has about 7 or 8 actually.
Yeah, he's really good. He's a good buddy of mine. We talk back and forth. But okay, let's keep going down here. Let's see. Here's another one. It's a private message. What do you ask them to learn what they treasure? I asked. That's a great question. That one is you want to ask them. This is how you can start it. And if you're in, if you guys are in the CrocBrain selling system, this is a good way to do it. This is the 10-minute SOAR call that I talk about there for biz builders, but it can be used for anybody. You ask them basically, what do you want more of in life? Or if you had your dream life, what would that look like? Okay, that starts that question about what they treasure, and then you take it from there. Okay, people will tell you, they'll talk about their dreams, or man, when I was younger, I used to want to do all this and this, and then life got in the way. Then I had a couple kids, or you know the drill. Okay, so that's what I do, and that starts that conversation to get them talking. So I hope that answered that question. Let's see, we have. Let's see, okay, someone asks, is it possible to still purchase your paper you offered following the DISC personality call? Yes, it is. Those are still available for this person. This is a private message, so I won't say her name, but just go ahead and send me at the CrocBrain. Let me put that in there. I'll just type it right here. You can just send me an email to crocbrain@gmail.com and just say, this is what I'm looking for. You see it there on the screen, and you can go ahead and I'll make sure we get that worked out for you. Okay. Let's see. So this one's not private. This one is from John. I don't know, John, if you're still on. How do you? Oops, it just jumped there. How do we apply what you taught last week in terms of talking with individuals to a group? I'm not sure what that. Does that make sense to you, Lynette? How do we apply what you taught last week in terms of talking with individuals to a group? Oh, she's talking about to a group of people. How do you apply that? Are you talking about, she must be talking about the glutamate dopamine dump. Well, here's the thing. You can trigger these things by talking to a group. The only problem is, like I said, Jonna, is the response back may be limited or none. Because a lot of people don't necessarily want to share their pain and treasure in a group situation. This is why I like to do the private in-home demos, because I can get them to open up and I can talk to them and I can connect what we're offering to what they treasure. Okay, and so I hope that answers that. You can get the triggering mechanism to a group, and you can say, to something to the effect of, for any of you guys, if this really rung home to you, come see me after the demonstration. We'll just chat in private, or we can set up a time to talk in private. Okay, so that's how you can do it if you're in a particular group situation. So you can sit down with them in a private situation. Okay, and from you guys that are, I'm assuming, Jonna, you're in Kangen Water. I mean, if you're 6A and that's $1,710 for a sale, I think probably that's worth a private conversation. If it were me, I'd be like, yeah, I'm gonna talk to that person. So. From just a purely business standpoint. All right, I think. Okay, here's another one. Ordered the cheat sheet. I see your name, so I'll take a look and I'll get that out to you. I apologize for that. We'll get that to you right away. Not a problem. Let me see if there's anyone else here. I think that's all the questions that we have. So again, guys, if you want the cheat sheet, it's crocbrain.com/get1. If you have missed some of the other quick start cheat sheets, just go to crocbrain@gmail.com. Is there anything else you want to add, Lynette? I think we're done with the questions for tonight.
No, it's been a great call with great information. Appreciate it so much, Peter.
All right, Lynette, and all the rest of you guys out there that hung on, I really appreciate it. Have a good rest of the week. We will see you again next Sunday. We'll talk real soon.
Thanks, Peter.
Bye-bye.